Mom rushed into marriage after Dad's death, but I found out she'd been having an affair before he died, and now she wants my college fund to buy a house with her new husband turned out to be a financial predator. I've just experienced the most shocking Christmas of my life, and even now, I'm struggling to wrap my head around everything that happened. My dad passed away only 4 months ago from complications following a car accident. He was just 45. His death tore my world apart, or at least that's what I thought until I came home from college for Christmas break and found out that my mom had already moved on in ways I couldn't have imagined. For some context, I'm 19, a sophomore at a university about 6 hours away from my hometown in Michigan. When Dad died, I threw myself into my studies as a way to cope. I knew that's what he would have wanted. He had always been proud of my academic success and had saved for my education since I was little. Mom, who's 42, seemed to be coping okay when I left for the fall semester. We FaceTimed and texted regularly, though, over the last couple of months, her calls became less frequent. She blamed it on being busy with work, so I didn't think much of it. When I pulled into the driveway yesterday, the first thing that struck me was a strange car parked outside. I assumed it belonged to a friend helping my mom get ready for Christmas, but when I stepped inside, I saw Mom in the kitchen with a man I had never seen before. They were acting far too close to be just friends. Then, to my complete shock, I noticed that both of them were wearing wedding rings. My heart dropped. Mom introduced the man casually as Mark, her husband. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She explained that they had gotten married 3 weeks ago in a private ceremony, after dating for just 2 months. I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. 2 months after my dad's death? And now she was married again? The man, Mark, was apparently a business consultant she had met at work. Not only had they gotten married without telling me, but he had also already moved into our home. I was in shock, and my mind was racing. I asked her why she hadn't told me any of this, why she'd kept it a secret. That's when things took an even worse turn. Mom got defensive right away, saying that she was moving on and that she deserved to be happy. She said she didn't want to live in the past and wanted to focus on her new beginning. The fact that she called Dad's memory the ugly past felt like a punch to the gut. I couldn't believe her lack of empathy. I wasn't just upset that she remarried, I was hurt that she kept it hidden from me, her only child. I told her it felt like she was erasing Dad from her life, and she had the nerve to say I was being dramatic and immature for not supporting her new marriage. It felt like my world was falling apart all over again, and instead of compassion, I got slammed with accusations. The argument escalated. Mom was trying to justify everything, telling me that she needed to move forward. But I couldn't accept how quickly she had replaced my dad, and I was furious that she hadn't even told me about something so life-changing. I asked her how she could hide this from me and expect me to be okay with it. That's when she stormed off and slammed her bedroom door in my face. Mark, her new husband, tried to step in, telling me that everyone grieves in their own way and that I should try to be more understanding. But I was done. There was no way I was staying in that house for Christmas, not with them. I grabbed my things, got in my car, and drove straight to my grandparents' house. My grandparents on my dad's side only live about 20 minutes away, and I knew they would understand. When I arrived at my grandparents' house and told them everything that had just unfolded, their reactions mirrored my own disbelief and confusion. Neither of them had any clue that my mom had secretly gotten married to Mark, let alone that it had already happened weeks ago. The whole situation felt surreal. My grandmother, looking pale and shocked, immediately tried calling my mom to get answers. She was hoping this was some kind of misunderstanding or that there was a reasonable explanation for why no one had been informed. But Mom didn't pick up. Not once. Each call went straight to voicemail, leaving my grandmother increasingly worried and frustrated. Meanwhile, my grandpa sat there in silence, processing everything. He was a man of few words, but you could tell he was deeply shaken by the news. After what felt like forever, he finally spoke up, and what he said added a whole new layer to this already complicated mess. He quietly mentioned something I hadn't even thought about in the chaos of the moment: my dad's trust fund for my college expenses. My father, being the careful and thoughtful person he was, had set up the trust well before his accident, making sure that I would be taken care of no matter what happened. This trust wasn't just some casual arrangement. It was a structured, legally binding account intended to cover my college education and ensure I wouldn't have to worry about money while pursuing my degree. My dad had made it clear to everyone that this money was specifically for my future. My grandparents were the trustees of this fund, which meant they were responsible for managing it and ensuring that it was used exactly how my dad had intended. The life insurance payout, which was separate from the trust, had gone directly to my mom after Dad's passing. What I didn't know at the time was that there had been some troubling developments concerning the trust. My grandparents had been trying to get my mom to sign some routine paperwork related to it for several weeks, but she had been giving them the runaround. She made excuse after excuse, saying she was too busy, that she hadn't had time to look at the documents, or that she would get to it eventually. They didn't think much of it at first, assuming that maybe she was just struggling with grief and needed more time to process things. After all, we were all still mourning my dad. But now, with everything that had just happened, it all started to make sense. My mom's behavior wasn't just about being overwhelmed with grief or busy with work, it was part of something much bigger and much more unsettling. My grandfather, always the pragmatic one, decided to take immediate action. Without wasting any time, he called their lawyer to make sure everything was still secure with my trust fund. I could barely believe what I was hearing as he explained the situation to me while on the phone with the lawyer. Apparently, my mom and her new husband Mark had been trying to gain access to the money. I felt a knot forming in my stomach as the details started to come out. Emails had been exchanged between my mom's lawyer and the legal team managing the trust, and they weren't just casual inquiries. My mom's lawyer had been pushing hard, trying to argue that because she had remarried, the money in the trust should now be considered part of the marital assets. They wanted access to the funds, not just for my education, but to use it however they saw fit. This news hit me like a ton of bricks. I felt betrayed in a way I had never experienced before. My mom, the person who was supposed to look out for me and protect my future, had been trying to undermine my dad's final wishes. And it wasn't just her. Mark was clearly involved in this too, pushing to get access to money that was never meant for him. The fact that they had been so brazen about it, even attempting to argue that the funds were marital property, made my skin crawl. This morning, my grandparents gave me an early Christmas present, copies of the documents that legally secured my college fund from Mom and Mark. They made sure that everything was locked in place so that there was no way Mom could touch it, no matter what she or her new husband tried. They also told me that Mark had already tried to contact their lawyer directly to work something out regarding the trust, but their lawyer shut that down immediately. When my mom found out that I knew about the trust situation, she went ballistic. She's been blowing up my phone, leaving angry voicemails and texts, accusing me of being ungrateful, and saying that I've turned Dad's family against her. She even had the nerve to say that I didn't understand what she was going through, as if this was all about her. Mark, meanwhile, is still trying to mediate, sending messages saying things like "let's work through this as a family." But I don't trust him. Not after what I've seen and heard. He hasn't even been around for more than a few months, and already he's trying to get involved in my financial future? It's all too much. Right now, I'm staying with my grandparents, trying to figure out what to do next. I can't believe how quickly my relationship with my mom has fallen apart, and it feels like she's a completely different person than the one who raised me. I keep thinking about how much my dad would have hated all of this. He was always about family, loyalty, and doing what was right. I don't know if I'll ever be able to look at my mom the same way again. Update 1. It's been a few days since I first shared what happened, and things have spiraled beyond anything I could have imagined. First off, I just want to thank everyone for their support. It's been overwhelming to read all your comments and advice, and honestly, I don't know how I'd be handling this without the kindness from total strangers. That being said, the situation has only gotten more complicated, and to be honest, it's making me feel sick. After my post went viral, I started hearing from family friends, and even some people I hadn't spoken to in years. A few reached out with messages of support, but others had information that has left me even more shaken. It turns out that Mark and my mom didn't just meet through work a couple of months after my dad's death as they claimed. They'd been working on projects together for at least 6 months before my dad passed away. Several of my mom's colleagues said they noticed that Mom and Mark were unusually close during that time, but they thought it was just a friendly work relationship. Now, looking back, it's clear there was something more going on even before Dad's accident. The most unsettling part is that some people who worked with my mom told me that the two of them were regularly going to lunch together, and some even saw them attending work functions side by side. It's not uncommon for colleagues to spend time together, but the way it was described made it sound more intimate. This means that their relationship likely started while my dad was still alive, which feels like a betrayal beyond words. I've been trying to process this idea that my mom was possibly having an emotional, if not physical, affair while my dad was still with us, and I just can't wrap my head around it. On top of that, I've learned that my mom had started quietly making changes to her social media right after the wedding. She adjusted her privacy settings and unfriended a lot of my dad's friends and extended family members. Several family friends told me they had reached out to her around that time, trying to offer condolences and support, only to realize they'd been blocked. At first, I thought maybe she was just overwhelmed by grief and didn't want to deal with reminders of Dad. But now, it's clear she was trying to keep her new life with Mark a secret from anyone who might have asked too many questions. It wasn't just me she was hiding the marriage from, it was everyone who could potentially call her out on what she was doing. She didn't want anyone to know that she had moved on so quickly. The idea that she deliberately shut out the people who cared about our family to protect her secret is something I'm struggling to accept. Then, there's the matter of Mark. I've learned more about him too, and it's made the situation even messier. My dad's best friend, who works in a different department at the same company as my mom, reached out to me after reading my post. He told me that Mark had actually been married when he first started working with my mom. In fact, his divorce wasn't finalized until 6 weeks before my dad's accident. I don't even know what to say about that. It makes the timeline feel incredibly suspicious. Did Mark start getting close to my mom while he was still married? Did she know about it? And more importantly, did my dad ever have any idea what was going on? I can't help but wonder if this is why my mom never seemed to want to talk about Dad much after he passed. She said she wanted to move forward, but maybe it was because she had already started moving forward long before any of us knew. It's like everything I thought I knew about my family is unraveling. In the midst of all this, my grandparents have been absolute rocks. They're as shocked and disgusted as I am, but they've been helping me stay grounded. I've been staying at their house, and they've been talking with their lawyer to make sure my trust fund remains secure. Thank God my dad had the foresight to set things up the way he did. According to their lawyer, my dad was incredibly thorough when establishing the trust, possibly because he had concerns about my mom's decision-making, especially financially. The trust is set up so that the money can only be used for educational expenses and basic living costs until I'm 25. My grandparents are the trustees, meaning they have full control of the funds until I'm old enough to handle it myself. This means my mom and Mark have no legal claim to it, no matter what they try. And considering what I've learned recently, I'm more thankful for this setup than ever. I hate to think what might have happened if my mom had been in control of my college money after remarrying Mark. Their lawyer has reassured us that there's no way for Mom or Mark to get their hands on the trust fund, but they've already made several attempts. Mark even had the nerve to reach out to my grandparents' lawyer directly to discuss the matter, which only makes me more certain that they had plans to get access to that money. The lawyer shut him down, but it's clear that this isn't going to stop them from trying again. Meanwhile, my mom continues to blow up my phone with a mixture of guilt-tripping and angry messages. One minute she's telling me that I'm tearing the family apart, and the next, she's begging me to come back home. She keeps insisting that she didn't do anything wrong and that I'm overreacting, but I just can't believe her anymore. Every time I try to think about talking to her, I remember all the things I've learned over the past few days, and it just makes me feel angrier. How can she not see how wrong this all is? How can she expect me to be okay with this? Mark has also been sending messages, still trying to play the mediator, but I don't trust him. Not after everything that's come to light. I'm starting to think that maybe he had ulterior motives all along, whether that's getting close to my mom for financial reasons or something else, I don't know. But I can't shake the feeling that he's not who he seems to be. As things stand, I'm staying with my grandparents through the holidays, and they've made it clear that I can stay as long as I need to. I don't know what my relationship with my mom is going to look like going forward. The more I learn, the more hurt and betrayed I feel, and I honestly don't know if I can ever forgive her for what she's done. For now, I'm just trying to take things one day at a time, but the future feels uncertain. I'm terrified of what might come next. Update 2. Things have escalated in ways I never could have anticipated, and I'm honestly not sure how much more of this I can handle. Since my last update, my mom has taken her manipulation to a whole new level, and it's gotten much more serious legal action serious. A couple of days ago, my grandparents received a formal letter from my mom's lawyer. The letter accused them of alienating me from her and manipulating me when it came to my inheritance and the trust fund my dad set up. The lawyer claimed that my mom, as my surviving parent, should have been named as the trustee of my college fund and demanded access to all trust-related documents. The whole thing is ridiculous because my dad's decision to appoint my grandparents as trustees was intentional, and the trust is ironclad. But apparently, my mom is now willing to go to court over this. She actually thinks she can force my grandparents to give her control of my trust money by claiming they're manipulating me. The absurdity of the situation is almost laughable, except that it's causing so much stress for everyone. What my mom didn't expect, though, was for this to backfire in a huge way. When my grandparents' lawyer received the letter, he responded with some evidence of his own. He presented proof that my mom had tried to withdraw money from one of my dad's personal accounts just days after his death before the probate process had even started. For those who don't know, this is illegal since all of dad's assets were supposed to go through probate first. I had no idea about any of this, but apparently, she was trying to access money that she wasn't legally entitled to, and that alone could get her into serious trouble. But it didn't stop there. The lawyer also showed us a letter that my dad had left with the trust documents. I had no idea this letter even existed. In it, my dad explained exactly why he had chosen his parents to be the trustees instead of my mom. The truth is, there had been some serious issues with money during my parents' marriage, things I never knew about as a kid. According to the letter, my mom had a history of financial mismanagement. He didn't go into too many specifics, but it was clear that my dad didn't trust her to handle large sums of money responsibly. My grandparents have been handling all of this in the most professional way possible, but the more I learn about what's been happening behind the scenes, the angrier I get. It's hard to wrap my mind around the fact that my mom, someone I trusted my whole life, was hiding so much from me. I had no idea that there were already issues with her judgment when it came to finances. And now, knowing that she's trying to get her hands on my college fund, I can't help but feel like her actions are more about greed than anything else. All of this is making me question so much about the person she's become since my dad's death. And speaking of people with questionable intentions, I've learned even more disturbing information about Mark, my mom's new husband. At first, I believed this was his second marriage, but I've since discovered it's actually his third. One of his ex-wives found me on social media after getting to know about the whole situation through a relative. She told me that Mark has a pattern of targeting financially vulnerable women, specifically those who have recently gone through major life changes, like divorce or the death of a spouse. Apparently, both of his previous marriages ended in messy financial disputes, with him trying to take as much as he could during the divorce settlements. Hearing this made my stomach turn because now it felt like I was watching history repeat itself, except this time it was my mom who was being targeted. This ex-wife went on to warn me that Mark was incredibly manipulative and charming at first, but once he secured some level of control, usually financial, his true nature would come out. She said he had a way of isolating his wives from their families and making them dependent on him financially, which sounds eerily similar to what's happening with my mom right now. It makes me wonder whether he's the one pushing her to fight for control of my trust fund, knowing that there's a significant amount of money involved. I've tried bringing this up to my mom in the few texts we've exchanged, but she's either ignoring it or doesn't want to believe it. She's completely wrapped up in this new life with Mark, and it feels like she's not even thinking clearly anymore. Every time I bring up a concern or try to talk to her about the trust fund or the shady things I've learned about Mark, she accuses me of turning against her and siding with my grandparents. It's frustrating because I just want to protect myself and ensure my future, but she sees it as a personal attack. Thankfully, my university has been incredibly supportive throughout all of this. After I explained the situation to the financial aid office, they helped me update all my paperwork to reflect that I'm now living with my grandparents full-time. This means that my mom no longer has any control over my educational funding. They also reassured me that my scholarships and grants are secure, and they flagged my account to prevent any interference from my mom. Knowing that my education is safe has been a huge relief, and I'm grateful that the school has my back. Right now, I'm just taking things day by day. The idea of legal battles with my own mother is something I never thought I'd be dealing with at 19, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around everything that's happened. I'm also terrified about what Mark's real motivations are and whether my mom will ever wake up to the reality of the situation. My grandparents have been amazing, but I hate that they're being dragged into this mess when they're just trying to protect me. I don't know what's going to happen next, but I'm bracing myself for the possibility that things might get even worse before they get better. For now, I'm just focusing on my studies and trying to build a life that's separate from all this chaos. Update 3. The final bombshell dropped yesterday, and it's changed everything. I had hoped for some kind of resolution with my mom, an apology or at least an acknowledgement of what's been happening. But instead, what I got was an email full of justifications, accusations, and an almost surreal level of denial. Mom finally reached out, not with the remorse I might have wished for, but with what she framed as an explanation. In the email, she claimed that her relationship with Mark had started as just friends who supported each other through difficult times, his divorce and my dad's death. She painted their relationship as this beautiful story of two people finding light in the darkness. It was so far from reality that I barely recognized the person writing these words. She said their quick marriage was a way of embracing life after tragedy, but it felt like she was trying to romanticize what was really just a whirlwind attempt to move on without considering anyone but herself. The most shocking part of the email, though, was her admission that she and Mark had actually been planning to use part of my trust fund as a down payment on a house they were looking to buy together. I couldn't believe what I was reading. She framed it like it was a logical, family-oriented decision, saying it would have been an investment in our new family's future. But the sheer gall of it stunned me. She was genuinely angry that my grandparents and I had blocked her from accessing that money, calling us selfish and saying that we had sabotaged their plans to build a new life together. It was clear at that point that she had no regard for what that money was actually intended for my education and future. I could only imagine what would have happened if my grandparents hadn't stepped in when they did. As if that wasn't enough, things have gotten even worse on the harassment front. My mom and Mark have been showing up at my grandparents' house unannounced, repeatedly trying to get in contact with them. At first, they were just knocking on the door, but now they've started lingering outside, even after being told to leave. It's gotten to the point where my grandparents' lawyer has had to file for a restraining order against both of them. The police were actually called yesterday when Mark refused to leave their property. It was terrifying to think that someone who had become so entangled in my mom's life was now causing this level of distress. He's showing more and more signs of being exactly the type of person that his ex-wife warned me about, a manipulator who knows no boundaries when it comes to getting what he wants. It's heartbreaking to see how far my mom has fallen. I don't know if it's Mark's influence or if she was always capable of this level of deceit and selfishness, but it feels like I've lost her for good. The person who raised me is gone, replaced by someone I can't even recognize. The pain of that realization has been almost as hard as losing my dad. But amid all this darkness, there's a silver lining. The support I've received from my dad's side of the family has been incredible. They've stepped up for me in ways I never expected. My grandparents, who have already done so much, have offered to let me live with them permanently whenever I'm not at school. They've made it clear that their home is my home now, and that I don't ever have to worry about going back to my mom's house. In fact, my aunt, my dad's sister, is flying in from Colorado next week to help me pack up the rest of my belongings for my mom's place. I can't even express how much this means to me. It feels like a final break from the chaos and a chance to start fresh, surrounded by people who truly care about my well-being. I've also decided to start seeing a therapist. Losing my dad was already hard enough, but now I'm facing the reality that I've essentially lost my mom too. The grief isn't just about death, it's about the profound sense of abandonment and betrayal that comes with watching a parent turn into someone you no longer know. My grandparents have been incredibly supportive of this decision and even helped me find a counselor who specializes in both grief and family conflict. I know it's going to take time to heal from all of this, but I'm ready to start working through the emotions I've been bottling up for the past few months. Another positive step has been connecting with a financial advisor, thanks to my grandparents. They want to make sure I fully understand the trust fund and how to manage it responsibly. This way, I can plan for my future in a way that honors my dad's wishes. It's comforting to know that I'm surrounded by people who not only care about me emotionally but also want to help me navigate the practical side of things. With everything that's happened, I realize how important it is to be fully informed and prepared, so I don't fall victim to the same financial manipulations that my mom has been wrapped up in. The hardest part of all of this has been coming to terms with the fact that the mom I thought I knew is gone. She's chosen this new life, and it's clear that she's not coming back from it. As much as it hurts, I have to accept that she's made her choice. It feels like I've lost both my parents in different ways, but I'm starting to understand that I can't force her to change. What I can do is focus on my own healing and building a future that isn't defined by the chaos she's brought into my life. For those who have been asking about the legal side of things, my grandparents' lawyer remains confident that my mom has no case when it comes to the trust fund. My dad's documentation was incredibly thorough, and everything was legally sound. We're now focusing on documenting all the harassment attempts from my mom and Mark so that we can prevent any future legal challenges. My grandparents' lawyer is keeping a close eye on everything, and I trust that we're in good hands moving forward. I don't know what the future holds, but for now, I'm focusing on healing and moving forward with the family members who have proven they truly care about me. The outpouring of support from my dad's side of the family, as well as the messages from all of you, have helped me feel less alone in all of this. I'm not sure if there will be any more twists in this story, but for now, I'm taking things one day at a time and holding on to the hope that better days are ahead. Thank you all for your support. I'll update again if anything major changes, but for now, I'm working on finding peace in this new chapter of my life.